Are you hearing bumps in the night? Seeing mysterious lights in the sky? Are there mysterious red eyes watching you from the shadows? Did you find a strange, oversized footprint? Do you believe in cryptids and the paranormal? Are you afraid of the dark? No? Well, you should be. It's time for Carolina Creepers and Oddities Radio, the bi-weekly podcast that is dedicated to bringing you the legends and stories of paranormal events that occurred in and around North and South Carolina. So pour yourself a drink, dim the lights, sit back, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Carolina Creepers and Oddities Radio. My name is Chris Edwards, and this is my co-host, Jay Gallagher.
Hello, everybody.
And in this edition, we'll explore the legend of the Cherokee Devil. But before we dive right in, let's meet our host. I'm your host, Chris Edwards, and this is my co-host with me today, Jay Gallagher. Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, ain't a whole lot to tell. It's just the fact that I'm a retired firefighter paramedic and have been interested in the paranormal ever since I was old enough to know what a ghost was. I've actually lived in some haunted houses before, which was a pretty cool experience. And you've actually been to one of the houses that was haunted that I lived in.
I have.
And it's always been an interest of mine. So now that I've retired and nothing really to do, I'm exploring it even more.
Just like you, Jay, I'm going to be recently retired firefighter, but going to stay within the EMT service as well. I became interested in the paranormal back when I was a kid, going to Gettysburg. I visited Gettysburg when I was a kid in a class and saw the ghost stories and some of the graves and things like that, and that's what got me interested in the paranormal. I've seen some pretty strange things as well and had some strange feelings as well, so that's how I became interested in it.
Now, folks, if you've ever watched the TV show Mountain Monsters, you may have heard of tonight's topic of the Cherokee Devil. They did a few shows on it a couple years back. Now, the Cherokee Devil is also known as the Tsul. This is a legendary figure of Cherokee mythology that plays the role of the great lord of the game, and as such is frequently invoked in hunting rites and rituals. The Tsul is also known as an evil spirit, resembling a Bigfoot, that married a young girl and supposedly possessed the power to control the minds of its victims. Now, the tale of the Tsul is one of the best-known Cherokee legends, and it was recorded by Europeans as early as 1823, often using the spelling Tuli Kalua. Now, I'm going to warn everybody right here and now, I'm probably going to be butchering some of these names, and I apologize. The name Tsul means literally, he has them slanting and sloping, and understood to refer to his eyes, although the word eye, akita plural, is not a part of it. In the plural form, it is also the name of a traditional race of giants in the far west. He is said to dwell in the place called Sinunaguli. The words Tsul and Tutsumi and their variations appear in the number of Cherokee place names throughout the southeastern United States, especially in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee. Tsul is actually 100-acre patch on a slope of the mountain Tennessee Bald in Jackson County, North Carolina, on the ridge upon which the boundary of the Haywood, Jackson, and the Transylvania counties converge. It is believed that the Tsul was responsible for cleaning the spot for his home. There is also a large slab of soapstone called Jetacula Rock nearby, which is covered with a strange scratches, and carvings. These markings are said to have been made by the giant when he would jump from his home on the mountain to the creek bed below. Another place associated with Tsul is is where the footprints, which is Tsul. This is located in the Tuskegee River, about a mile above Deep Creek in Swain County, North Carolina. Impressions said to have been the footprints of the giant Tsul, and a deer was found on a rock that was destroyed during railroad building. Now, the Cherokee developed two ways to ward off the Tsul. The first way was to keep it out of certain places, and this was done by making a, don't laugh, but a booger mask, which would be styled to look like the face of the Tsul, which in turn, it would trick it into thinking it was a bigger Tsul and would scare it away. The other option was used if captured by the Tsul. The only way this could happen was if the person was completely alone, which would prompt the Tsul out of its spiritual form into a physical form, in which it would grab the victim and attempt to hypnotize it. And at that stage, the person was basically his. Now, in order for this second option to work, you have to be of Cherokee blood, or it is said that it would not work. The victim, all they would have to say is "Adinasti," which simply means leave in Cherokee, which would make the Tsul release the victim.
Cherokee legend of Tsul. A long time ago, a widow lived with her one daughter at the old town of Kanga on the Pigeon River. The girl was of age to marry, and her mother used to talk to her a good deal. One day her mother told her she must be sure to take no one but a good hunter for her husband, so that they would have someone to take care of them and would always have plenty of meat in the house. The girl said such a man was hard to find, but her mother advised her not to be in a hurry and to wait until the right one came. Now the mother slept at the house while the girl slept outside in the ahi. One dark night, a stranger came to the ahi wanting to court the girl, but she told her mother would let her marry no one but a good hunter. Well, said the stranger, I'm a great hunter. So she let him come in, and he stayed all night. Just before day, he said he must go back now to his own place, but that he had brought some meat for the mother, and she would find it outside. Then he went away, and the girl had not seen him. When day came, she went out and found there a deer which she brought into the house to her mother, and told her it was a present from her new sweetheart. Her mother was pleased, and they had deer steaks for breakfast. He came again the next night, but again he went away before daylight, and this time he left 2 deer outside. The mother was even more pleased this time, but said to her daughter, I wish your sweetheart would bring us some wood. Now, wherever he might be, the stranger knew their thoughts. So when he came next time, he said to the girl, tell your mother I have brought the wood. And when she looked out in the morning, there were several great trees laying in the front of the door, roots, branches, and all. The old woman was angry and said, He might have brought us some wood that we could have used instead of whole trees that we can't split to litter up the road and brush. The hunter knew what she said, and the next time he came, he brought nothing. And when they looked out in the morning, the trees were gone, and there was no wood at all. So the old woman had to go after some herself. Almost every night he came to see the girl, and each time he brought deer or some other game, but still always left before daylight. At last, her mother said, your husband always leaves before daylight. Why don't he wait? I want to see what son-in-law I have. When the girl told this to her husband, he said to her he could not let the old woman see him because the sight would frighten her. She wants to see you anyhow, said the girl, and began to cry. Until at last he had consent to, but warned that her mother must not say that he looked frightful. The next morning he did not leave so early, but stayed in the IE and when it was daylight, the girl went out and told her mother. The old woman came and looked in, and there she saw a great giant with long slanting eyes, laying doubled on the floor, with his head against the rafters in the left-hand corner at the back, his toes scraping the roof in the right-hand corner of the door. She gave only one look and ran back to the house crying. Tsul was terribly angry. He untwisted himself and came out of the IE and said goodbye to the girl, telling her that he would never let her mother see him again, but go back to his own country. Then he went off in the direction of Sungye. Jay?
Now, we did some research, and we got some information of Bigfoot in the Carolinas. North Carolina ranks 17th among the lower 48 states in reported Bigfoot sightings, with number one, of course, being Washington State. The alleged Bigfoot sightings have been reporting in both North and South Carolina within the last few months. Largest amount of sightings has been in Montgomery County, North Carolina, with 15 sightings, and Lee County, South Carolina, with 8. Now, the sightings documented in western North Carolina go back to the early 1800s. North Carolina averages 106 reported sightings per year, with South Carolina averaging 57 per year. Now, those are just the ones that are reported. Just think of, the ones that go unreported.
Right.
So, they could definitely be more than, what the websites have shown.
Right, because statistical data has only been kept up for, so long, and it's more prevalent since the internet's been around.
Exactly. Now, during this research, I found out that Bigfoot sightings have increased, almost doubled in the last 30 years. And it really didn't give a reason why, but I have a theory on that if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, tell us.
Well, urban interface. We're moving into their territory every day, and it's kind of like, what we did to the Indians. We come in and took over and ran them out. Well, if they have nowhere to go, then of course the sightings are going to increase. And that's just my theory.
Right, and it's just like that, especially this time of the year. All the deer, you see all the deer this time of year because they're moving because people encroach on their territory as we expand and build, more towns and more cities and things like that. It goes deeper into the woods and more or less drives like deer and bear and other animals out of their habitat into urban settings.
Exactly. When you're driving down the road this time of year and you see a deer on the side of the road, be careful. There might be a Bigfoot close by.
Well, it's time for our final thoughts on on today's topic. And my final takeaway from this episode was more or less that is the Tsul really real? Is Bigfoot really real? People have been studying Bigfoot for a long, long time, and there's still no definitive evidence that Bigfoot really exists or doesn't exist. I think it's entirely possible, as we were talking about in our last segment about, the urban interface, that the Bigfoot is real. What about you, Jay?
Well, if you talk to any Native American who is true to his Native American roots, they're going to tell you, yes, he does exist. And they can go back and give you stories that was told from their ancestors. And it's like we said one time before in one of the shows that, mythology and legends and folklore has to start somewhere.
Right.
And, the Indians have the carvings of, or not the carvings, but the artwork that they did on the,
like the pictograms.
exactly, that's the word I was looking for. And it shows, some of them show big hairy monsters with big feet. And personally, and it might sound crazy because I've kind of had myself and my cousin and my son has kind of had an experience that we believe was a Sasquatch. I believe in him. Why not? I mean, deep sea divers are finding fish that were thought to be extinct.
True.
And they're finding them. So why not?
Well, I've spent plenty of times in the woods. I'm a hunter myself, so I've spent plenty of times in the woods, and I've heard strange noises, but nothing that I would actually attribute to being a Sukalu or a Bigfoot. Personally, I just think it's just the acoustics of the woods. I haven't heard anything definitive enough to even come close to that. Jay?
No. Well, again, it's, one of those things where to truly be a believer, you have to have an experience, either hearing one, finding a footprint, seeing one, or somebody, getting one and putting him on the, laying him out on the table, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I've also read, I don't know if you would call it a conspiracy theory or fact or crap, but there was a woods big wildland fire out west, and there was a National Guard unit that was helping out at the fire, and they were sent in and for a injured person. Well, what the injured person turned out to be was a burnt Bigfoot, and they carted him off to some secret location or whatnot. Now here's my thing: for all these years, we thought UFOs were fake. No
right.
such thing. Well, what was it, 2 years ago, the government finally come out and said, okay, you got us, they exist. And,
right.
But they're unidentified flying phenomenon now. They changed it,
the
name. So if the government held out that long on us about the UFOs, why not Bigfoot?
Exactly. But my previous comments were basically, I personally have never had enough of an experience to say that I've had an encounter with one.
Well, I've never seen one. But I thoroughly believe I heard one, and he was close to us. But, truth be known, you're talking to Bigfoot right now because I wear a size 17 double E.
Right. So, for our next show, don't forget to tune in to the next episode of Carolina Creepers and Oddities Radio, where we will discuss the mystery of the Mako Lights. We thank you again for listening to the show. You've been listening to Carolina Creepers and Oddities Radio. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. If you like our show, please help us out by providing a review. If you would like to contact us, please email us at firefighter274@outlook.com. Until next time, remember, fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. If you stare at the dark too long, you will eventually see what isn't there.